Welcome to the Retail Insider video interview series. I'm your host, Craig Patterson, and we're joined here today with a special guest. This is Mark Ang. He's the CEO and co-founder of logistics company GoBolt, based in Canada. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
Now, tell us a little bit about GoBolt and how it got started.
So the GoBolt journey started almost 8 years ago with my co-founder Heinrich and I launching a consumer storage company that would help store summer students' stuff when they went back wherever back home was. And so we launched into what was a consumer market and built this quasi 3PL, quasi delivery company for people's stuff. About a year and a half later, after scaling to a handful of markets in Canada, we decided that we weren't super inspired by helping people hoard their things more efficiently. And we were already being hacked by various different retailers to store their product, pick, pack, ship, and deliver it because we had that same infrastructure. And what they loved about it was the reliability, the timeliness, and the technology factor. And so it was about in 2019, early days, that we decided to pivot into logistics and focus on that full time. And over the past 5+ years, we've been building that specifically, and we now operate over 1.5 million square feet across 10 markets and scaling at a pretty rapid clip and doing so with more enterprise and mid-market customers.
Terrific. Now, GoBolt offers both fulfillment and last mile delivery services. How do these two elements work together to provide a seamless experience for retailers and their customers?
There's really two ways that we do this at GoBolt. I would say the first is a technological way, and the second is operational. So by merging the warehousing and the last mile together, we're able to provide way more visibility for the merchant's support team and the merchant's customer into the state of where a package is. Is it in a pick, packed, awaiting carrier status? Is it waiting to be sorted? Is it out for delivery? Is it delivered? If it's being failed, why? When will it be reattempted? All that exists within our technological ecosystem. We've built all of our own systems on a proprietary level. And so we have a lot of malleability, but scalability within it. So that's number one. We don't offer and require that our merchant partners choose both our fulfillment and last mile. They can it's on a prefix, it's a la carte menu. And so, from an operational standpoint, where one hand washes the other and both wash the face is that we're able to ground skip and zone skip between our various fulfillment centers, use those as injection hubs, sortation hubs, and then launch various last mile routes off of those. And so GoBolt can essentially spread its costs and overhead across multiple lines of business, but leverage infrastructure in specific lines of business for the betterment of the whole business. And so merchants get a much more seamless, operationally tight, and cost-effective solution.
That's terrific. How are merchants responding to this so far in terms of speed and otherwise?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, we've had a ton of success with a number of amazing brands. I think one that's near and dear to us is Frank and Oak, which is a Montreal-based brand that started over a decade ago and has been sort of rebirthed under a company called UCG, which is led by Dustin Jones. And we fulfill across a couple of sites, both in Canada and the US. We conduct as much GoBolt parcel last mile delivery as possible. And then we ship with third parties where we are not physically based. And so we've been able to orchestrate their inventory, help them ground skip into the right areas, improve their speed of delivery. And in many cases, we're half the delivery cost of what incumbents used to charge for the last mile. And so I think there's a amazing technological win with our real-time truck tracking for them, sustainability win with our last mile EV fleet, but then a financial win with the ability to drive cost-effective last mile delivery.
Terrific. And now there's a sustainability element to GoBolt as well, from my understanding. Tell me a bit about sustainability and how it integrates into the business while still being cost-effective for customers.
So when we were reinventing the business back in 2019, we wanted to do so holistically. So we wanted something that we'd be proud of 50 years from now. And one thing that we weren't proud of was this increasing dependence on diesel emitting 5-ton trucks. And if we were to continue to grow and be successful, we would have a lot more of those on the road. And so we conceived of this EV commercial fleet, which didn't really exist much at the time. And so we're pretty early to the party. And now there's a lot more OEMs and startups that are trying to manufacture these, and there's puts and takes with that. But we really made a conscious effort to invest deeply, both in infrastructure and in software to manage. And so the benefits with an EV delivery, I mean, there are many, but the chief ones among them are you align your brand with an ethos that your customers are likely looking for and wanting. From a delivery experience perspective, these aren't emitting carbon emissions. They're extremely quiet. They're great for residential delivery. And they come with a lot of different bells and whistles that make the driving of them safer and more ergonomic for our drivers. And so they have a much more enjoyable delivery experience, which is only good downstream. And then from a technological perspective, we've had to invest a lot more in the route algorithms that we developed so that the uptime would be quite strong. Because large incumbents have attempted to use EV vehicles, but without the right software stack, you'll find that your uptime drops like a rock. And so we've been able to be in the high 90s uptime rate, which has been driving great efficiency for us and letting us get a good ROI out of the vehicles themselves.
Very interesting. It sounds like a lot of technology is used. How about for, say, real-time tracking or otherwise with products that are being shipped or goods?
Yeah, real-time truck tracking was a co-development that we led on behalf of one of our merchant partners back in, I guess it was 2020, where they had about 600 calls a day for their big and bulky deliveries. And, at a $10 handle rate, that was $6,000 a day. That was over 2 million a year in support costs that they, basically quantified and were happy to pay from a last mile perspective. And we just thought there was a better way to do that because 80% of these inquiries were just, hey, is my order still coming today? And we thought that was a pretty silly thing to have someone pick up the phone and answer in this day and age. And so using the telematics in our vehicles, the GPS coordinates of our kind of devices, and the progress our drivers are making throughout the day, we were able to serve out this really nice Uber-like experience to the shopper where they can see exactly when we'll be arriving down to the minute. And so that essentially quashed all of those orders. And now they're hopefully reallocating their CS team to more tier 2 plus type inquiries.
How do things go as we get up here looking towards December, the holiday season? A lot of retailers are doing a lot of business, and retailers that are using e-commerce are needing shipping. How is GoBolt working with things as we look to get into this very busy holiday season coming up pretty soon?
Yeah, we have two rhythms to plan for. So basically, we have the core warehousing rhythms where you have to peak plan. You often run 24/7 site operations for a period of 6 to 8 weeks. And you need to make sure that you've got training, devices, spike pickups, et cetera, all set up for the warehouse operations. Then we have this whole other business line to plan for, which is our last mile delivery business, where we need to make sure we have the right assets, infrastructure, load outdoors, and so on to make sure that we're successful in the last mile. All in all, though, we're pretty bullish on this year. Every peak season has gotten materially better year on year. One thing for our retail partners is that when they store and fulfill with us, we can deliver way later from a promised ship date. And so you're not having to pick, pack, and then hand it off to a large carrier and hope it gets through their sortation network. It's being picked, packed. It's already in the sortation site. It gets sorted, and then it gets delivered the next day. And so there's a lot of advantages to this within the GoBolt ecosystem. And so we're leveraging that and using that as an input to planning. But nevertheless, whether a merchant fulfills with us or not, we've got all the right provisions in place to make sure this peak season is a smashing success.
We've seen some strikes in ports and whatnot, but how's GoBolt positioning itself for the changing needs of retailers as things shake up and as we are, out of the pandemic and looking to the future?
It's a great question. In fact, there was one recently that was averted, but we had to come up with some contingency plans. And ultimately, we did pull trigger on one of those contingency plans to create some more resiliency, where we leverage one of our other 12 fulfillment sites that's on the same coast, but south of the border, to be able to move product down to another location so that they had another egress for the product that was coming inbound. This is a particularly high velocity client that is inbounding upwards of 10 containers per day. And so we were able to move them across the network. And now we have a more distributed strategy where they're thinking about, okay, we have a choke point that exists in the Port of Vancouver or the Port of Long Beach, or name your port of entry. And we are basically single sourcing our inbound because that's where our only 3PL location is. And, either via our account management strategy or them coming inbound through sales, we've opened them up to a more intelligent distribution where we can have a bi-coastal strategy where you can at least take advantage of two more ports. And then you can also get your product more forward placed towards your customer, which saves you time, money, and it's more sustainable. And so while that's not a strategy for everyone, like if you have tens of thousands of SKUs, that may not work. But if you have a handful of very strong hero SKUs, like most scaling D2C businesses do, that's a great strategy to take advantage of. That just creates more resiliency throughout your supply chain.
I've used a few different shipping companies just by default as I've ordered some stuff and have different experiences. Some have been a little more personalized than others. Tell me a bit about GoBolt and any personalization around the customer service that's had.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of advancements that we're making and have already made. I think chief among them certainly is the tracking experience and the bi-directional instructions that can come through our app. So if you're getting a delivery from one of our merchants, you'll get a link with your real-time truck tracker the moment that route's created. Throughout the day, you'll be able to track that experience and be notified when you're the next stop. But if for whatever reason you need to adjust your address, we can have you adjust your address on the day of delivery without having to have a human intervene, either on the merchant side or our side, up to 5 kilometers or 3 miles to what that first address was. So that's great for you. If you're, have a busy late night at the office, or you have a plan that's been gone sideways, and you need your neighbor to take care of that package, whether it's an expensive electronic or a suit that you need for this wedding on the weekend and it has to be delivered, you can make sure that you have that success rate happen, because we can help you manage that change of address through our tracking ecosystem. At the same time, if there's a place for a safe drop that you'd like to make us aware of, you can do that through our text message communication that's already been opened up. So that's for the shopper side that we think is like really elevating the experience, on top of all the other ecosystem benefits that our merchants take advantage of.
Very interesting. I mean, right now it sounds like things are moving along. Are there any future plans or anything that you can share with us about the future of GoBolt or logistics and fulfillment?
Yeah, I think by popular demand, we'll be increasing our footprint in 2025. And so we are operating in 10 major metros in the US and Canada today. And there are a number of markets that we'll be entering into next year, with the support of some of our existing merchants, as they have gotten to know the service quality, whether it's cost, quality, speed, and they've come used to that with GoBolt. They now want to see us in other key markets, and we'll be launching those in partnership next year.
Terrific. Anything else we want to discuss?
No, I think these are the big notes. I mean, I think where GoBolt really tries to show up is leveraging technology on a pretty tried and true industry. I don't think, Hendrik and I, as co-founders, we were our first delivery personnel, our first support people, our first warehouse associates. So when we build software today for the business, it's from a very practical standpoint to make it better, faster, or cheaper. Because the only real way to not sacrifice cost, quality, or speed is to introduce technology to do it in a more novel way. And I think we've done that fairly well for our merchants at scale, across two countries, 10 cities, and scaling. And so we're excited to keep that moving. And our investments in technology are really paying off now that we're partnering with scaling mid-market and enterprise customers.
This has been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us here today. This has been Mark Ang. He's the CEO and co-founder of Canadian logistics company GoBolt. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Craig. I appreciate it.
And I'm Craig Patterson. I'm the founder and publisher of Retail Insider, as well as the host of the Retail Insider video interview series. Be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're consuming this on if you haven't already. Thank you so much again for listening or watching here today. Take care and bye for now.